Hello, hello, hello. We are back with another episode of the Jane Warren podcast. And I have such an inspiring woman here today, Makini Smith. She is also a mindset coach. She's based out of Toronto, Canada. And we are going to dive in today all about her 15 years so far as an entrepreneur. She is going to share her journey. It is going to inspire you. And I am just so grateful that you are here. Makini, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Jane. I'm excited to jump in. I love connecting with like-minded people, especially other mindset coaches, because I feel like we just get each other. We're on the same vibration, speaking the same language. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Thank you for taking time out of your day. If this is your first time listening to the Jane Warren podcast, welcome. We welcome you with open arms. If you are coming back, you know I love you. So thank you for being here and taking this time. I'm going to give you all a little bit of a background on McKinney because get ready. This woman has done some incredible things, and this is exactly why I have her here. So Makini Smith is passionate about helping others towards their personal and professional growth and overcoming their own adversities. Leveraging her expertise and personal experiences, she helps individuals overcome self-limiting beliefs and detrimental behaviors. Her mission is to help individuals identify and overcome their limiting beliefs and behaviors to realize their full potential. McKinney's founder, Legacy Levers Media, assisting women entrepreneurs in self-publishing with the same tools and resources as traditional publishers without the need for their validation or approval. And get this, okay? She is a 5-time published author. She hosts her own podcast, which is a 5-star rated Heal Her podcast. And it is one of the top 1.5% most popular podcasts globally. You hear this? Seriously, this ain't it. And based out of Toronto, Canada, she has been on incredible media platforms, including Shadow Lane, iHeartRadio, CBC, CTV, Bell Media, Vice News, and get this, multiple times, Times Square billboards. Girl, you are simply a representation of what I can be. So this is incredible. I just love to connect with women like you because truly and honestly, and this is what I always say to my listeners and say to my clients, whatever anyone else has, you can have too. And
Yes,
so
absolutely.
everything you just said, I'm like, here we go. I cannot wait to be on that billboard in Times Square. I mean, I've been on the cover of a magazine, so that happened. So, welcome.
Listen,
I'm
I'll
so
help you get on
excited.
the Times Square billboard. I got you. I got you.
Damn. All right. Okay. Listeners, you heard that? We've put it out there. I'm going to go claim it. All right,
Yeah.
McKinney, let's start. Share with everyone about you. So let's go back. Let's go back into your journey. How did you even get started into thinking about being an entrepreneur? Where did your journey begin? You can take us back as far as you want.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, I mean, whenever I hear my bio, I get overwhelmed. So I can only imagine someone who's listening. For someone who is such an extreme introvert, for someone who is like a highly sensitive person, all of these things, like I have social anxiety. So when I hear the list of things that I've actually accomplished, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, I did that. So, so for anyone who is listening, if it's possible for me, it is definitely possible for you. Okay, where do I get started? So I guess I'll start at the beginning of my entrepreneurship journey. So I became a full-time entrepreneur. I started out in the real estate industry while I was going through a divorce and became a single mother of three. Um, I was a stay-at-home mom for almost 5 years prior to that, and my husband at the time, made majority of the income, and I was used to living a particular lifestyle, and I thought, well, I'm not going to stay in this unhealthy relationship, but I don't want my kids to have to suffer. So jumping into real estate for me was it gave me the ability to still be there full time with my kids and create the life that I wanted with my own schedule and timelines. And I built my career around my schedule with the kids, but it also allowed me the income that they didn't have to suffer and deal with the lifestyle change. I mean, I was used to it, but I didn't want them to have to deal with that. So I sold real estate full time for about 6 years, and somewhere in the middle, my sister had passed away, and so that was 2012. And at the time, I was selling real estate full time, but I went into such a deep depression. I couldn't function. I had given all of my clients to my peers, and I took about 6 months off. Like I was not okay. And obviously, when you're an entrepreneur and you're in an industry that is based on your efforts, when you stop, the income stops. And in that process, as a part of my healing, a very great friend of mine who was helping me, get through my grief, forced me to watch the documentary The Secret. And at the time, I wasn't fully present, but I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched, how, like, I didn't even fully understand it at the time, but I got into doing vision boards. And one of the thought leaders featured in the documentary The Secret is Bob Proctor. Now, a couple years later, when I had written my first book and got my first book deal, I was kind of um, unsure about that publisher and had done some research and seen that that publisher had published one of Bob Proctor's earlier books. And I was in the office doing a real estate deal, and a complete stranger, my phone number was on the internet at the time, but a complete
Mm-hmm.
stranger had reached out to me and said, "Hey, I follow you on Twitter. I love your positive vibe. I see that you're into Bob Proctor. I have an opportunity for you to meet him." So I thought it was a scam. I was like, "Buddy, I'm in the middle of doing a real estate deal. Like, send me an email. I don't have time for this." And by the time I finished the deal and I checked my emails, there was an invitation to a conference room at a hotel in it was Richmond Hill. And so for anyone who's not familiar, like if you're not from Canada, it's north of Toronto. And there was a picture of this guy next to Bob Proctor, and I was like, oh, this is real. So everything in me said, girl, like I had a list of excuses of why I shouldn't go, why I shouldn't attend. And long story short, everything that could go wrong on the actual day of attending this meeting went wrong. Like, babysitter didn't show up. I had 3 kids. I got lost on the way. In getting lost, I ran out of gas, so I was late. I like all of the
Oh my
things.
gosh.
But I show up and
Testing your resilience.
exactly, exactly. Like, I could have just turned around and said, "Forget this. This is too hard."
Mm-hmm.
But something in me was like, "Just keep going." And when I found the actual conference room at the hotel, which was like downstairs, Bob Proctor's standing at the door greeting everyone as they come in. And I was like, "Okay, this is real." So I greet him and I go into the room, and there's only like 30 people in the room. It wasn't a large meeting. So the introvert in me, who was still, at the moment I was working through the social anxiety, it had been barely a year since my sister passed away. I was just getting back into networking. And I was like, after, getting lost and all this frustration, I don't really feel like talking to anybody. So I sat at a table by myself, the one empty table. And an older lady and a younger lady came over and sat with me, and we just started talking. And the older lady was asking all these questions about our story and our life. And then she says, "Your story is so inspiring. You should tell my husband." And I said, "Who's your husband?" And she said, "Bob," and calls Bob Proctor over. I was like, ah. So,
This gives me goosebumps because and anyone that people listeners the name Bob Proctor may be new to you, so you can Google him. I reference a lot of his things because my first coach, Hina Khan, worked under
yep, I know Hina.
Bob.
I was in training with
Yeah.
Hina. Yep.
And so, yeah, Hina was my first coach. And so that's when I started to learn about Bob. And thinking into results and all these things. So I can't
Yeah.
believe this. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my
We're
God. I'm not
completely
starstruck,
aligned.
but I think I'd be starstruck
We're
if he was
completely
still alive.
aligned.
Bless his soul.
Completely aligned.
Yeah.
Like, while I was talking to Bob, his wife goes up to the front of the room, and she was supposed to be up there to introduce him. And she said, "Well, before I introduce my husband, who's gonna, speak to us tonight, I'd love to tell you about this woman that I met. Her story is so inspiring. You need to meet her." And I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me because I don't really like attention on myself. So I was like, "No, don't do that." But long story short, that was my introduction to personal development, because I ended up
Wow.
staying connected with Bob. His wife, Linda, basically took me under her wing and she was mentoring me. I was mentored by his daughter, Colleen. I ended up becoming a consultant for Bob. So that's how I met him in training. I
Yeah.
saw her do her presentation in training and I was like, I want to be like her.
And what she's
Um,
built to this day,
Amazing, right?
insane,
Yeah,
insane. Hmm.
absolutely.
I just
So
had her on my podcast. The
awesome.
episode went out
I
literally, it went out this week. When this one airs, it's going to be a few weeks prior, but literally it just got released this week.
That's amazing. See, and she's on my list for me to invite her to come and be on my podcast. Look at
Oh
that.
my gosh, such a small world.
But see, that's the beauty in our
Synchronicities.
industry. Like
Hmm.
there, it's not about competition, it's about collaboration. We support each other, we
Hmm.
edify each other. Like I love the co-creation, I love this space. And that's why I transitioned from real estate into personal development because I felt like I was on such a higher vibration. I felt like I was doing so much more. It just made me feel excited every single day. The information I was learning, I was like, everybody needs to know this.
Yeah.
So, you know, to sum it all up, I basically stayed connected with the Proctor family and they nurtured me and showed me, like, opened up my mind. Like, I got into personal business development and Bob's wife wrote the foreword on my first book. His son wrote the foreword on my fifth book. And interesting enough, we had reached out to Bob to write the foreword on the fifth book. And then when he didn't respond, we're like, that's not like him. He normally replies. And then we got a response back that he had passed away. So,
Hmm.
like, right before the announcement went out to all the consultants, I was like, oh my goodness. But his son ended up blessing me and my co-author of the last book because she was also
Wow.
one of Bob's top consultants. So he wrote the foreword on the last book, but it changed my life, and I got into personal development, and because it made me not only view life differently, but transition my own life from what it was to where it is today and believe in what's possible and tap into more of my potential. I was like, okay, definitely, if I can do this, anyone can do this. And I became very passionate about helping other people overcome their limiting beliefs. Um, so that's the summary, I guess.
Oh my gosh, that is just wild. And I mean, it only goes to show the universe, God, whomever you believe in, wanted you in that room. Like you
Yeah.
were destined to be in that room. And how incredible for you to have, been there, made an impact, and been able to everything that happened afterwards.
Hmm.
That is just wild. So
Yeah.
why don't we talk a bit about how you like from where you started? And it's great that you've opened up about having some social anxieties and things like that, because yeah, of course you can still be an entrepreneur and be an introvert, there's
Hmm.
plenty of them. So why don't you talk us through a little bit of the mindset work that you've had to do and that some of the big shifts that happened for you over the last 15 years?
Oh, wow. So many mindset shifts. Um, I mean, considering that I grew up in government housing to a single mom, didn't know the luxuries and all the things that I've been able to experience, it was mind-blowing to say the least. And learning how to envision the life that you actually want for yourself and to attract those things and to be open to those things when you're not used to any of it, and then to see it come to fruition, to manifest it and like have the tangible results of those beliefs and thoughts and visions and feelings in your head come to life. It's like, oh, whoa, this is powerful. So learning to tap into my potential, because I learned that most of us only tapped into 10% of our potential. Learning to actually tap into that, but also understanding that two things can coexist at the same time. I definitely struggle with anxiety. I was diagnosed with anxiety back in 2006, but being able to be confident in areas of my life, being able to have the confidence where now I'm doing corporate coaching and, having six-figure clients when I've never worked a day of corporate in my life. Being able to learn and unlearn things at the exact same time, being able to understand that it's okay to have growth, but be making mistakes at the same time. Like all these things can coexist. Like it doesn't mean that one has to exist without the other, or that, it just has to be one thing. I think that's definitely helped me transition and transform into who I am, and to be able to, I guess, have some of the success and accolades that I've been able to attain. And I think if I only felt like one could exist, I wouldn't go after the others.
Mhm.
Um, I think oftentimes people will see someone that they consider successful, because I think success is basically, defined individually by each of us,
Mhm.
by what we want. But I think it's very easy to see someone attain a certain level of success and say, well, I can't do that, or I can't have that. And knowing where I've come from and what I've experienced and what I still sometimes have to struggle or work through, um, yeah, I definitely want to share that two things can exist at the same time.
And no, that's great insight, and it's so important. And you can't just have one, and no one just has one. I think the problem with social media, it's a blessing and a curse because people see one side. And that's why I'm all about normalizing the challenges
Mhm.
that we face, normalizing the way that we naturally think. And I mean, everyone has their own thoughts and beliefs based off your upbringing, based off what's happened in
Yes.
your life, based off your circumstance. But when you're seeing what everyone else is doing and feeling threatened by it or competitive about it or envious of it, whatever it is, it's like you're just seeing one side. Like I share a lot about recently around splitting your energy. Some entrepreneurs are, have their business and have another job. I mean, I'm a
Mhm.
multi-visionary, so, I'll have multiple things going on, coaching and corporate wellness and all these things, right? But it's
Mhm.
like they see what everyone's doing on Instagram and they assume that, oh, they're just all into their business, and they're questioning themselves, why can't I be all into my business? When's it going to happen for me? And it's
Mhm.
really I mean, it's all a mindset game, and it's like, I share a lot about I took on a contract in the last 9 months. It ends by the time this airs, it'll be done. But I'm so excited, and it served its purpose. But it's like, I've had to split my energy, and it's like I'm very honest about that because I'm like, yeah, entrepreneurship, everyone's journey looks different, and you
Yes.
can you can have it all. Yes, you can have a successful business and work another job. It's like you define it. Like that, you said that. I always say this, like, you define what your own success is. That was a major mind shift I had to make. I came out of corporate, and
Mm.
I associated success with money.
Mhm.
And because you make more money, the better you are in your job. And so, you get promotions. I mean,
Mhm.
realistically, as an entrepreneur, it's very easy to define success with money too, because
Mhm.
you're like, well, obviously, if I'm successful, I'm making money, I'm surviving off my business. When the money wasn't rolling in, I felt terrible and like a
Mhm.
failure. And so I had to do a lot of work around my not only money mindset, but around what success meant to me, and making it about things that weren't tangible
Yeah.
and intangible things. Um, so tell us now a little bit about, so what are you doing right now in your business? What types of things are you doing, and how are you really helping your clients?
So right now in my business, I'm focusing on my corporate clients. I just
Mhm.
renewed another corporate contract where I basically get paid six figures to do a couple of sessions. But I'm helping change the mindset of their teams, because it affects the production of their entire business. So it's building the confidence and the mindset of the team members, so that they actually can believe in the work that they're doing, their ability to do the work that they're doing, and to make a difference in the work that they're doing. So that's my main focus at the moment. I kind of took a step back from taking one-on-one clients, because I feel like, prior to the pandemic, I spent a lot of energy trying to get one-on-one clients and trying to convince people, um, that they needed mindset coaching. And I feel
Mhm.
like, especially in my community, in my culture, like, personal development isn't considered a priority. Where I'm someone who strongly believes in personal development. I strongly believe in therapy. I strongly believe in healing and all of those things. So the energy that it was taking from me was exhausting. It was draining. So I took a step back from doing one on one coaching and do the corporate. And then I have a lot of clients that I get through, I work with like ghostwriters, celebrity ghostwriters, and other editors
Hmm.
to publish because the traditional way of publishing is no longer the only way to publish. And there's a lot of people that don't feel that it's possible to publish, or they don't
Hmm.
realize that it doesn't have to be as difficult. So I hold their hand through that process and get them published. So those are the two
I
things
love
that I,
that.
I focus on right now on a daily, in
And
addition
that's
to spending time with my granddaughter.
there you go. Keeps you a busy woman. I'm sure it keeps you. Well, I hate that word. I don't like to use that word. I'm like, I don't want to be defined as busy. I like,
Yeah.
eventful. I live a harmonious, peaceful life. I do the
Yes.
things I want to do.
Yes.
But no, that's amazing, and especially the publishing piece because you're so right. We limit ourselves all the time. Everyone does. And it's like, there's so many incredible writers out there, incredible future authors, but the thought of publishing something is so daunting. And
Hmm.
it's so natural to think, well, I can't do that. And it requires mindset work, like mindset reframes
Oh,
and
listen.
like working on self-image, like the self-image of being, you probably had to work on your self-image of being an author.
Oh, absolutely. I do. Honestly, I feel like with my publishing clients, it includes a lot of mindset work. Like a lot of our sessions and calls are more me encouraging them that they can do this than
Yeah,
anything
don't give
else.
up. You're like, I believe in you.
Exactly, exactly. So, I feel like one with because a lot of the women that I work with are thought leaders, coaches, therapists, experts in their field. They may feel confident about the information, but they're not confident in publishing and putting out that book. So sometimes it's
Mhm.
just helping them to flip that switch in their mind. And also in terms of like it being challenging because years ago, the traditional publishing system was what everyone felt they had to go through. Knowing that they can have their books in all the same places as a traditional publisher with half the cost and still maintain, control. People love that. Um, I think anyone who is an expert in their field should have a book out there. It's a lot easier than they think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. As
Part of
I look
leaving
at my
a
wall and I
legacy.
look at my article, and I've written a few articles, I'm like, very. I think sometimes people think, and I know. So I spoke in a global summit in February, March time, and with Women Thrives, and so, but what's interesting is, there's 40, 50 incredible speakers and you hear them, and this is like even coming from me, as someone that I believe we all have our own self-doubts, but a confident like coach, and I
Mhm.
know what I know, and I get really convicted behind what I offer and how I serve. And it's interesting because when I was listening to everyone's stories, I was like, wow, like some people's stories were just crazy. And I'm
Mhm.
like, is my am I going to give as much value? Much value? Am I going to make as much of an impact as these other women? And you think, and then I'm sure this thought comes into a lot of people's minds when it comes to writing because they're like, well, would people care? But then it's also too, some of these like my story might resonate. And I know because when I did my talk and then afterwards the feedback and connections I made from
Yes.
it, they were like, wow, you were speaking my story. They're like, you were
Yes.
speaking my truth. And
Yes.
so, but it's interesting because I mean, there's trillions of people out there. Everyone's going to relate differently. But I
Absolutely.
immediately thought, I like my little, self doubt kicked in, and I thought, am I like, I know I'm meant to be here, but like, wow, I'm like, these women are blowing my mind. And, I just think, well, I had a really lovely upbringing. Like, I'm thinking about these, like, I really don't have childhood trauma. Like, and that's not
Listen,
me, like, me avoiding.
every single one of us has an important story, and our
Yeah.
story is going to resonate with someone. Like you were listening to those people and inspired by them because their message was meant for you to hear, but the people that you were speaking to, your message was meant for them to hear. And you and I could
Yes.
have the same information in our head and deliver it differently and resonate differently to different people. And that's why I strongly believe in collaborations and co-creations. And even when
Mm-hmm.
I said to you, like, I got you, I'll help you with the billboard, because it's like when we are helping someone else on their journey, someone else to fulfill their dreams and to fulfill their purpose, that in turn does help us. But it's like, it's not a competition thing. We
Mm-hmm.
can all be successful. Those people that were on stage where you're thinking, their stories are mind blowing and I don't have a crazy story like that. The person that is listening to your story and your words and that resonates with you, they may need that. They may feel like, well, I don't have a crazy story, but you know what I mean? They see your transition to be inspired
Mm-hmm.
by it. It doesn't always have to
Mm-hmm.
be a rags to riches story. So, yeah, you got this.
Well said, girl. Well said. You mentioned before about you doing some vision boards, like when you kind of starting in your journey, and I'd love to know about some of the things that, or like your thoughts on manifestation
Mhm.
and some of the things that you've manifested and how you go about your manifestation process.
Absolutely. So in the beginning, I know now I was doing it wrong. A lot of people, when they do vision boards, they just grab a bunch of magazines, they just start cutting out pretty pictures and paste them onto, the Bristol board or whatever and call it a vision board. That wasn't necessarily working for me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got into the mindset work and I started to understand vibration and energy and all those things, I was more intentional about what I was putting on the vision board. So how I worked the vision board was very different than how I did before. So now it's more about being intentional about what I want for my life first, creating the vision of what I want for my life. And then I can either look for images that match that or create them. Like, you know, I don't know, you have AI now that can create whatever image you want. But those are the intentional images that I now use for the manifesting. And because when I am looking at those images that resonate with my spirit, that excite me, that bring me up on a higher vibration, I feel more connected to them. And that's how I'm attracting the things that are meant for me. Like our vibration, like we can't attract what we're not in harmony with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I just went to a random magazine and just cut out a bunch of pretty pictures, it's not resonating with me. It's not in harmony with the vision that I have for my life. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously manifesting that, there's going to be some conflict, right? Um, but when I am intentional about what I'm putting on there, the vision that I have for my life, the visions that I want to see, because naturally as people, we're visual people, right? Like even my dog, I months before I got my dog that I have now, I would be on nature walks. So I started at the beginning of the pandemic doing nature walks every day until I increased to 5 kilometer walks to now it's 10 kilometer walks, but going to conservation areas and things like that. And I would see groups of people walking beautiful dogs that I would be terrified of. And my entire adult life, I had these little small purse dogs. I would get, Shih Tzus and Maltese. So we still have a Maltese, but I was because I had a fear of big dogs from growing up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I would see these people on the nature walks with dogs. I would see these women confidently walking on these trails by themselves. And they had, American bulldogs and pits and all these dogs. And I was like, I would love that. I would love to not be afraid of those type of dogs. I would love to be on the nature trails and do those things. Well, guess what Makini's doing now? I no longer have that fear of dogs. I have my dog. He's an American bulldog. He
Oh,
is like,
yes.
I could do the nature trails with my dog, walk confidently. I'm not afraid of other big dogs now. Like it was the vision that I held on to that in order for me to get there. Like that's just a small thing. But
Mm-hmm.
my relationship, being intentional because I had a history of toxic relationships and I had things that I needed to heal within myself to even understand why I experienced
Mm-hmm.
those things. And then being intentional about the vision that I have for a healthy relationship. I have that
Mm-hmm.
now. I feel safe and confident in my relationship. What my relationship looks like and what it feels like is what I wanted versus what I experienced before, right? So
Yeah.
being intentional, instead of just cutting out pretty pictures from a magazine because I thought it was cute.
And when you make your vision board, are you someone that has it somewhere that you see it regularly, or do
Yes.
you put it away?
So definitely where I see it regularly. So we had learned from Bob, especially with like our goal cards when we're writing out what we want for our
Yeah.
life. So he always kept his goal card in his pocket. And when he's on stage, sometimes his hand would be in his pocket and he's literally like rubbing the goal card. So what's written on the card and you're touching it, you're seeing it often, you're keeping it at the forefront of your mind. So that
Yeah.
vision, it's like ingrained right here.
Yeah.
And that's how it's easier to manifest those things because it stays top of mind.
Yeah.
Um, I have had things where I have written down in a journal about things that I wanted, or I started to organize. So my second book launch actually was manifested from something I had written in a journal and put away. And then during the planning process, when I was moving and cleaning stuff out, and I read what I had written down, everything was like the color scheme, the guest speaker, all of the things, everything. So, I mean, I guess it can work both ways, but
Yeah.
I have seen it more faster and more visible when I have it somewhere that I'm seeing it consistently.
Yeah, for sure. And it is truly all about getting your thoughts behind it. Like if you're seeing it, then you're thinking, if you're seeing for me, on a vision board, like my business is like remote, I as 99% remote, unless I choose to do an in-person something, corporate
Yeah.
workshop or something. But otherwise it's remote because I envision myself on a beach in this beautiful villa, open concept. Like what's wild I love is that I'll be going to the Virgin Islands in December with my best friend, his wife, and their family. And when he sent me, I didn't even look past the first photo of the Airbnb. I was like, this is on luxury real estate something. And I was
Yeah.
like, yes. Like I just said yes. Like I was
Yeah.
like, because I'm not joking. Just the first photo was like, this is the life that I'm manifesting and it's happening. And
Yes.
so I'm a really firm believer in journaling and I've done vision boards. I need to do a new one. I'm like so due right now. I need to make a new one because like this is now a time I'm going to start flying. So I need to be dreaming big. But one thing I love that I always do is I make a really pretty screensaver for my phone
Yes.
and I put, I'm so happy and grateful. And I
Yes.
put my statement of like what my goal is, what I'm hoping to accomplish. And like I just see it every single time subconsciously when I, open my phone and I'm reminded of
Yes.
it over and over and over. So I
Yes.
find, any way for repetition really is going to
Yes.
help get there faster. But I really like the intention piece because I think that's really important. And I mean, everyone's vision board is your vision board. So whatever you're making, make it however you want. I make mine in Canva, you know what I
Yep.
mean? But
Yep.
like you, it's a combination of sometimes photos that even I have that trigger emotions that I'm like,
Yes.
oh, okay, yeah, this makes me feel free, right? But what I also do is I'll put words or like phrases or something if I can't quite capture like
Yes.
what the aesthetic that I want or what I'm thinking, what I want, I'll put down some of the key words because it reminds me, right, of, okay,
Mhm.
this is the lifestyle I want. Like I had freedom, harmonious, like all of these things.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is what I want. Or I did one thing I love that I did is I took my bank account, whited out the numbers, put the numbers I wanted to see. And
Yes.
I was
Yep.
like, and what's messed up slash not, it's real. It like happened.
Yes.
And it was like, and it's funny because it happened in a way that, you never know how it's going to happen. And you can't, have an expectation of a certain, way that it's going to happen or expected results. It's just going to happen. You have to believe
Yes.
that it's going to happen and start taking actions towards it. But I realized, and usually some of these manifestations, you only realize sometimes some of them after the fact, like you with the
Yes.
book. And
Yep.
there was a few times that I thought, oh my God, like I think about small things, the office space I created in my kitchen. Like I was writing about, sure, would I like my place to have an oceanfront view? Yes, but I have a bright, like open, like,
Yeah.
office space and like and all these things. But it's funny because we sometimes get so wrapped up in, well, it's not exactly how I want it, but it's today's version of it.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, I find all these little things can help. And I was actually going to create a post for social media on a Gucci mascara, which sounds so simple, but basically from Sephora, I got a sample of Gucci mascara. And I started using it and I was like, damn, I'm like, this makes my lashes look amazing. And I was like, this wand is unreal. Like, I'm like, it's perfect. I was like putting it on. Then, of course, it runs out because it's a little tiny sample. And then I was like, well, okay, I'm like, I love this wand. I'll just take my other mascara, put it in, and like keep reusing the wand. So I did that for about like a month and a half or so. And then I was like, okay, for real, like look this up. I looked it up and
Yeah.
then I saw it was like $50. And I thought $50 for a mascara. Now, at first my thought was $50. Like what? You can go to Shoppers and get a
Yeah.
mascara for like $10, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, but then so I kind of thought about it and I was like, you know what? I would go out and spend $50 on two cocktails like at happy hour. So I'm
Yeah.
like, and that's one night, which I'll have a very enjoyable time with my girlfriends, but like, that's one night. This mascara is going to last me longer. But the cool thing was, and this with like self-image and mindset, is like
Yes.
me buying that mascara. Firstly, I wish I had it on my desk still. I just put it back in my drawer. But it's like beautiful. It has like a gold, it's heavy. Like it literally, the mascara holder is heavy.
Yes.
And it's like every time I look at it, and I'm not a really brand name materialistic girl at
Yeah.
all, but it feels luxurious. It makes me feel abundant. It makes me feel wealthy. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, damn, future self uses Gucci. So I'm going to use this today. But it's
Yeah.
literally such a simple way to tap into elevating your self image today. So you can, again, it's like getting into the feeling. And it's the
Yes.
most simplest thing. And people, we just get so wrapped up in what we don't have, how
Yeah.
hard it's going to be to get somewhere. But the reality is, no. Close your eyes, start imagining what the fuck you want, and
Act
go and
as
like
if.
start going
Yep.
for it.
It's the act as if. It helps you get there. Like, act as if you are
Love
that
that.
woman who easily spends the $50 on the Gucci mascara. That's how you get closer to the life that you envision for yourself. Like right now, I use a $400 eye cream. If you had asked me 5 years ago, no. No, thank you.
I
It's
love
like,
that. You're like, I'm out. I need to buy more without question. You're probably on refill. You have auto like
damn right, I
refill.
just reordered my refill.
No, but it's so true. And it's so easy to just think like, yeah, to be like, I would never do that. But when you actually look at things, even I'm a pretty logical person, which made the whole consciousness and mindset thing a little challenging sometimes because you have
Mhm,
to be a bit delusional. And
mhm,
I'm a very logical person.
mhm.
But it's like all these little tiny things. I love that you shared that. You do that too, because it elevates you. And every time you put it on, you're like, I'm a queen.
Yep,
$400.
absolutely.
Look at how it's like reducing these fine lines.
I'm like, I don't look like nobody's grandma.
No way, girl. No way. Oh my gosh, this has been so amazing. So before we go, I would love for you to just leave our listeners with something. So if you were to go back and say something to your previous early entrepreneurial self, because some of my listeners, early entrepreneurs, and they're starting out and they're probably feeling frustrated and they don't have, they haven't built some of the mental foundations that you and I have spent years and years and years mastering and building. So, what advice would you give to them?
Hmm. I would say that your current circumstance doesn't define you, that the life that you would love to have is possible. Remove all of the distractions, all of the excuses, all of the what ifs, all of the negative self talk, all of the opinions of other people, and ask yourself, what do you really want? Because it's possible. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, what a beautiful way to wrap this up. Oh my gosh, Makini, I think this is, girl, I am gonna hang on to you. I cannot wait to chat with you. I'm like, okay, we need
So
to
I
get off
love
this
making
right
new
now. I got
friends.
so many things I want to talk to you about. But thank you so, so much. I'm so grateful that you were here and to share all your incredible story and your insight with the audience.
Thank you so much for having me, Jane. I really do appreciate it. And you are stuck with me for life. I love making new friends.
Oh my gosh, so happy. Thank you so much.